All right, good evening, everybody. Wow. I'll say it one more time. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for sharing your evening here today as we discuss education in Fresno. Welcome on behalf of the Fresno Teachers Association. My name is Manuel Bonilla, the FTA president. I think it's going to be a good night. Lots of discussion. I can't wait. Joining me tonight is not only a great colleague, but a friend, Louis Jamerson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome. Happy to see so many wonderful faces in the room. I want to first apologize for the food. We had a plan. Sometimes those plans don't go quite like you set them in motion to go. So for those of you who did not get a chance to eat, you will have the pleasure of seeing the president and I help serve food at the end of this to help you get out of here sooner. So I'm going to turn it back over to Manuel, but thank you for being here tonight.
Before we get started, I just think it's funny as my colleagues come in, how much we take on the tendencies of our students, right? We had some sections roped off, but we all know the students that want to sit up front, and we all know the ones that want to definitely sit in the back. So I just think that that's a funny note. Again, on behalf of the Fresno Teachers Association, welcome. I do want to introduce the leadership, right, of the Fresno Teachers Association. That is our executive board, made up of 10 members. So I'm going to ask that they stand up now. They're in the room. You can go ahead and stand up, executive board members. Chris Finley, who is not here tonight, Carrie McNeil-Roberts, Michael Clark, Marina Santos, Linda Herman, Deborah Schmidt, Terry Reichert, and newly retired, or is he? The newly retired Reggie Phillips right there. All right. So here's the plan for tonight. Tonight's supposed to be a night to talk a little bit about our journey over the last year and a half, and to have a discussion, an open and honest discussion, not just with us in the room as educators, right, in the classroom, or supporting the classroom, but also to be able to ask questions of Superintendent Nelson. Superintendent Nelson is right over here. So in order to start to think about the future, we definitely need to know where we were. Where were we a year and a half ago, 2 years ago? And so I'm going to see, go ahead and do the next slide for me, please. It doesn't work. Uh-oh. We were in the dark. There we go, thank you. We talk often of our journey. So in the 2016, 2019 contract, we talked about conflict and chaos. Raise your hand if you were there that night. That's right, so in October 2018, 3,000 educators went to People's Church and said that they were willing to strike for the things that they need in order to improve the learning environments for their students. And at that time, a really great friend was leading this organization. She's here tonight. She didn't know I was going to do this, so she's probably going to be mad at me, but past President Tish Wright. Under Tish's leadership, this organization found its voice again, right? And I think many of you would agree with me. And as we found our voice, we started to utilize that and start to speak out about the things that we needed in order to improve education. Unfortunately, at that time, bargaining started under a different leader, one that maybe wasn't as collaborative. And so things went a little bit rocky for a while. In fact, what happened was that things went so rocky that communication started to break down because we developed our own narratives about what it was we wanted. And luckily, next slide. Luckily, another good friend of mine is here tonight. I told her not to freak out when she saw her face on there. So luckily, a good friend, Miss Linda Hoff. Linda Hoff, I'm sorry, and Professor Larry Dunn reached out because they said, is there a way that we could go about this a different way? Can we start a conversation, maybe not so much about the issues, but about communication? So we started these guided conversations in November 2017, and we were able in that discussion, along with FTA leadership and district leadership, to really hone in on our narratives, the echo chambers we call them, the stories that we were telling ourselves about the other side. And they were very rough, they were very difficult conversations, right? But through that, we were able to develop a new way of communicating. Communicating in a way that got us through difficult conversations, but without the conflict, without the fight. Okay? Next slide. So, 1 year ago today, after a 22-hour session, second 20-ish hour session, we finally signed our tentative agreement for a contract. So you can see most of us in that picture were there for that 22 hours, so very, very tired at that moment. But with that, we were able to try to find a path forward. It gave us a pause, a respite that we could then start to utilize as we move forward together. Go ahead, next slide, please. And so, since that time, we started building a foundation. Okay? If you don't know, this is a picture of something I'll talk about in just a second called a labor management initiative. First time we've ever had one in Fresno. Go ahead, next slide. So in February 2018, how many people participated at the ratification vote? Okay. Down at the fairground. For the first time ever, ratification vote. In fact, we had Superintendent Nelson there in February 2018. In June of 2018, we attended together, district leadership, FTA leadership, a conference. And that conference was about a labor management initiative that's sponsored by not only CTA, it's sponsored by the Department of Education, other organizations, but for the first time we were in the room together listening to the same things about how we could move forward. That spawned many, many conversations and dreaming about how we might move forward together. And you can see just right there on the board, some of the firsts that have ever happened in this district. In August of 2018, for the first time ever, FTA leadership was invited by Superintendent Nelson to the Principals Institute. This is all the principals in the district, and we were able to talk to them about the issues that we feel were important, right, that directly impact the classroom. In September 2018, Superintendent Nelson came to our rep council meeting, again, to reciprocate and to say this is what we're trying to do from the district's perspective to the district, or to, excuse me, our site leadership. Next slide. And then in October, we had a labor management initiative meeting of our own. So we invited not only our site reps, but all the school principals to a meeting, and we said, how can we do things where everybody feels valued as a professional? Because as we had discussions, we said, people don't wake up wanting to be managed, right? They wake up wanting to be led. So how can everybody feel valued in this system? And that's a question that we explored, and it was awesome to see because as people were able to stay in the space together, were able to work through leadership, you started to see some themes emerge. Some of those themes were feeling overworked. Raise your hand if you feel that way. Another theme that emerged was feeling as if you didn't have agency or voice in the decisions that impact your classroom or your work. Raise your hand if you feel that's true. And the last one was just not feeling valued or heard. Raise your hand if you feel that's true. So some of those big ideas started to come out. But we decided it's not just good enough that we know our challenges or our deficits. We need to figure out how do we find solutions to them. And that's what we've been working through over the course of the year. And I'll tell you, it's not easy. For a district that has had this conflict for, some say, many decades, how do you reverse that? We stay in space together. We don't give up. Okay. We hold each other accountable. We have difficult conversations. We just do so in a different way. Go to the next slide. So, with that comes an opportunity as we go into bargaining to do things differently, to go from the conflict and chaos to collaboration. And so, I just want to recognize our bargaining team as we enter in. As many of you know, next week, the 22nd, we start bargaining, and I want to talk a little bit about that. But if you are a bargaining team member, please stand up so we can recognize you. Please keep these people in your thoughts. Because what they're about to do is embark on a journey that not many people have been able to do in this district. We're going to try things a different way, like I said, try to engage in a different way, and most importantly, come up with solutions in the bargaining process that will help improve classroom, and not just the classroom, but the dynamic, the communication, the relationship that we have with the district. Go to the next slide. So, in order to do that, in order to get your feedback and to understand the needs from your classroom and you as an educator, we issued a bargaining survey. Bargaining survey was done at the end of last semester. Okay. Is it okay if I share the number of those? You think it's okay? Man, okay. That's why I like this. So in our last Ed Summit, we had approximately 750 people that completed the survey. For this survey, we had over 1,400 people complete. So that lends itself to more voice, right? And that's exactly what we're looking for. Staying engaged, as I said, to just help to lead this awakening of our voice. And so being able to stay engaged is very important. So bargaining results. You guys ready? All right, next slide. Class size. Next one. Go ahead. All right. So I'm going to break a rule. Okay, I hope that you forgive me. I'm going to read from the PowerPoint. Okay. So 90% of teachers believe that individual class size caps are the best way to improve classrooms. Make some noise if you agree. With that, almost the same, 89% of teachers believe that smaller class sizes will help meet the academic and social emotional needs of their students. Does that surprise anybody? Yeah, I didn't find it surprising either. Definitely 90% is a huge number. You want to go to the next area? Okay, evaluations. Next one. Yeah, evaluations was interesting. Only 36% of educators believe that the evaluation process helps them grow as professional educators, which probably explains why only half believe the process is fair and equitable. We have discussions, and I hope that we can have a discussion as we go into the bargaining cycle about what does that look like, right? Because we don't want I got yous in the evaluation process. The fourth largest school district in California, we deserve to be led, not managed. We deserve somebody, a leader at a school site that will help me develop and grow as a professional educator. So this is an important item. Next one. Okay. Wow. Let's see the results. Next slide. Okay. I'll start on the left-hand side. 2 out of 3 educators say they do not have professional discretion of their AC, PLC time. 2 out of 3 educators also say that the content is not decided collaboratively. If you agree with those, raise your hand. On the opposite side over there, only 28% of educators feel that AC or PLC time is a valuable use of their time, and a mirroring number, 27, say it helps them grow as a professional educator. Again, we want to be led, not managed, right? We want to grow as professional educators, so we shouldn't be in meetings where things are not relevant to us, because we know when we teach our students what they learn more when things are relevant and meaningful to them. Shouldn't that same idea apply to us? Next slide. Time. Go ahead. So I asked you earlier if you feel overworked. Time is something that doesn't cost anything, but it means the world to us, right? So take a look at some of these results up here. 90% of people, 90% of educators feel they don't have enough time to do all that they are asked to do during their workday. 82 feel that the district doesn't value their time. Now these were interesting. I want to thank Trish Renfro. I don't see her. Where is she? Oh, there she is, right over there. Our co-chair of the bargaining team, she said, I wonder how many educators do these items, right? How many take sick days? How many work additional hours? And so we made sure that we added that, and they were surprising to me. 46% of our educators are so overworked that they spend an additional 10 hours per week working on schoolwork. Raise your hand if that's you. More. 82% spend at least 5 hours per week working on schoolwork. And then this one right here. This was very interesting. At least 50% spend or take one sick day just to catch up on school-related. And I would even add, because I know I've done it, sometimes you just need like the mental health break, right? So whether you go fishing or you're knitting or whatever it is, right, just to get you centered again. It's like sleeping, yes. I have 3 little ones, so I know exactly what you mean. Next slide. Professionalism. Go ahead. Look at that. Only 1 out of 10 educators feel like the district values their input on decisions. 27 feel like, only 27 feels like the district values their expertise in the classroom. Next. All right, go to the next slide. It actually was surprising to me too. 50% of people feel, only 50% feel supported in discipline issues, right? So this is where we are. I laid out some context for you. I said this is where we were, this is what we're trying to do in order to meet the needs of our students. But not just that, how do we develop a better relationship with the district ourselves? But ultimately the goal is to do one thing, and that is to impact the classroom, positively impact the classroom. Because no matter what we say, the only thing that matters is what we do, right? So with that in mind, go ahead.
I just say how glad I am you didn't groan as loud as you did.
So we have some challenges, right? We can't do it alone. It's going to take collaboration. And that word gets thrown around way too much. Right? So as you guys know, I always say, don't talk about it, be about it. We hope that in this process, we're able to really show what we're about, to get some work done. And I believe Superintendent Nelson is the right person to help lead that work. This is the first time that he's seen any of these results, so you might need to take a second to process a little bit. I'm going to invite him up to just share a little bit of his reaction to some of this, reflection over the last year and a half, and to talk about what is it that we're going to do in order to start addressing these issues. So with that, Superintendent Nelson.
I was just saying to my colleagues, how crazy is it when the FTA meeting is, without exception, the best part of your week so far? If you think I'm lying, you might want to go on social media someplace and check that out. Can I just say, it's just an incredible honor to be here. I am glad you didn't groan like when you saw the discipline slide come up. I actually take exception to something you said, which is I don't think anybody wakes up wanting to be led. I think every person wakes up wanting to be part of something great that they can enjoy every day. And I love you, and I'm not trying to counter you, but I don't think it's about being led. I think it's about being a part of a place that you want to come to work every day, that you really feel valued and that your voice matters. It is weird. We've come a long way in a year. That's and I mean, fundamentally, and I stand for my other colleagues, don't make a story about the other people being here. The LCAP meeting is tonight here at Fresno. We didn't plan that really well, so there's just a lot of moving parts. And so I know I speak on behalf of my colleagues who are just so thankful that we are doing things differently. It's not been easy. Manuel had it exactly right. And if I could somehow meet every one of your needs and obligations, I would gladly try to step into that and do that. It's hard to do that. Not everybody sees the world through the same lens. And there's a lot of people in the world who see the world as a series of deficits, and everywhere they go, they see nothing but problems. And that's hard, right? And we do have issues, right? I'd be the last to tell you. If you ever think you're going to hear me say that Fresno Unified couldn't get better, then you're kidding yourself. But the reality is, until your out-of-town relatives stop talking crud about Fresno, like, I'm not sure my work is done. Right? Thank you. First, I should have started by just saying thank you. God bless you for coming here after a hard day on rainy day schedule. Yeah, I got you. I know. Sorry. Everybody's excited about the water table. They don't know about rainy day schedule for an entire week. Measure all the snow you want. I'm going crazy. We're not going to play that much heads up, sum it up in my life. Sorry, I'm dating myself with that. I realized as I got out of the car tonight, I'm like, my teaching faculty is so young. I am such an old person. That was the overarching message I'm taking away. But I actually am here, you know, all jokes aside, I am here to listen. The hard part with bargaining is you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And that part's hard. I mean, that's true. You can really literally do anything, but you can't do everything. The one thing that we're committed to doing very differently is just to not break down into silos and to stop talking. We treat this a lot like, I don't know how many of you are married by show of hands? Are there moments when you're like, yeah, I'm done, like I'm out, right? Well, you don't raise your hand on that part. What are you doing? No, don't you do that. Somebody here knows your spouse. But this relationship is a lot like that. Fundamentally, you got to come into the marriage every day saying, I'm going to work at this. And I'm not going to quit, and I'm going to keep fighting for what I believe to be true. And one thing you need to hear me say publicly, which really doesn't have a lot to do with you, but I'm going to lean into my next project too, which is the relationship between the board and the professional staff in the district has been bad for about 40 years. And I'm going to walk right into that space and begin having those hard conversations too. Because if I can't get us to a place where people are like, hey, you want to run for the board of Fresno Unified? And we're like, are you crazy? What are you doing? Like, until their relatives dissuade them, then we will always be perceived as somehow kind of second rate. And I just can't do that. So we're going to wade into that conversation. We've been talking about a lot of different things that we might bring to pass. One of the things I would love to do is work with our bargaining team about what we consider to be kind of the non-negotiables, if there are some. And not beat anybody with that. One thing I need to kind of do is acknowledge maybe some past difficulties. I think you're probably going to hear me say that publicly. How many of you have been here since maybe 2010 or longer? Okay, you can put your hands down. I came in 93. I don't know when you came, but I came in 93. Probably in 2010, if I were honest about it, like no two third grades bore a lot of relationship to one another. Like what a kid got, depending on where you taught or where they were at, or it was just kind of the Wild West. And I think at that time, the thought process was, well, if you could kind of homogenize that, make it all the same, then maybe kids will do better. So we kind of came top down. Boom! Gonna make it the same. But what that does is, it did kind of homogenize. The one advantage it provided is actually people could talk about curriculum now because they were doing similar things at similar times. People had the same verbatim, they had the same language, which is a value add. But you know how it is, when you top stuff down, when the door shuts, and it's rainy day schedule 3 days in a row, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do when the door's closed. Right? And we didn't do a very good job, if we're really honest about it, of building ownership for people. We just said, hey, this is what you're gonna do, like it, right? Like that. And that doesn't work. So I'm at a different tactic. I don't wanna go back, I'll tell you the truth. I don't wanna go back to the days of the Wild West. I don't wanna do that. I don't think it's good for our kids. But I don't wanna go back to the days of, hey, we're gonna tell you what you do and you're gonna do it. I'm not into that. That cuts that's the slide about not feeling valued, not feeling your expertise matter. Every last one of you has a college degree. You're all smart. Most of you are smarter than me, because you would never be a superintendent. Right? So we're going to work on how we can bring people's voice to the table in authentic ways. There are pockets of just places in our district where people really love working every day. Can I use yours? Okay, thank you. So Manuel previously taught, some of you know, at McLean in the Art Venture program. I'm going to be a little vulgar, you'll have to forgive me. It's my favorite word. It's not appropriate for a Mormon, but that program is badass. Sorry, Sisters Plan, where we are. I apologize. I don't use a lot of vulgarity, but there's no equivalent word for that. I'm sorry, there's just not. There's not one that just means both kind of edgy and really cool, right? And I know I think I made that joke a couple times over, but their program is really good, and their people really own the content of what they do there because they have a lot of say in what they do, and so they relish coming to work every day because what they get to do is really matters to them. And guess what happens to their kids as a result? They thrive because the belief system is our kids are going to do well, and we're excited about it. And we bring our best self to the workplace every day, and the kids are successful. That's the experience I want for every one of you. I'm not in control of all of that because you bring your own self to the table every day. Like if you are a person who is a deficit thinker and you tend to see the world as a series of problems, I'm not sure it's my job to fix that necessarily. However, I think we need to put you in the best possible place to enjoy coming to work every day. And how can we give people a little more say in what they do every day? Because some people like what they're doing and some people can't stand it. And if you're one of these people that has to drag themselves out miserably every day, I got to change that because that's going directly to our kids. Would you agree our kids can see right through that? They don't. The hard part for me is, I won't try to say I'm a teacher, Manuel. You got me off of that. I still see in the world as though I'm a teacher, although I haven't taught in a classroom for a long time. I try to tell Manuel I taught at Fresno State. He's like, okay, professor. So then I stopped saying that. I just stopped. So I think maybe my street cred as a... Raise your hand if we taught together. God bless you. Thank you. Yeah, that's right, Sandra. Come on. Yeah, I did teach for a lot of years in this district. But it's been a while. But this much I know. The hard part is we feel it's hard for our kids. One of the things they struggle with is, some of you know, there was a really rough situation with one of your most beloved people who's just a lovely educator, and we had a situation which was really public where we left an autistic kid out of the Christmas program and everybody went crazy. It was hard. It wasn't anybody's fault, it just was what it was. People reacted to it. The hard part is, sometimes we love our kids so much, not in this situation. So everybody got really incensed about that. Some video went viral and people went crazy about that. But what people are not as worried about is sometimes we put kids into content which they're never going to get caught up and they're just going to languish there forever. But I get it, that's excruciating. I get it, totally get it. Because if you are giving kids stuff that you feel like they are not ready for and they're going to act out and act the fool, that is really excruciatingly painful. But I'm here to tell you, and you need to hear it from me, I will never discipline you, and I will try to do everything I can to stop you ever being disciplined for promoting positive struggle for your kids. Right? The hard part is sometimes that triggers discipline. But I don't know how it is. Do you know I got 7 kids? It's a story. I'm not going to go into it because, I didn't work on a life coach with that. But suffice to say, I got 7 kids, 22, 20, 20, 6, 5, and 2 3-year-olds. Yeah, it's not, The little ones are all adopted foster youth, before you think I'm that crazy. Like, I'm crazy, but I'm not that crazy, all right? Let's just say that. But my little girls are 5 and 4. And we have a basketball hoop out in front of our house. Maybe you have the same one. It has a handle on the back that you can squeeze and you can lift it up and the hoop comes down. So the hoop can come all the way down to 6 feet or it goes all the way up to 9 feet. So my girls are too short to make the 9-footer. They can't do that, so I move it to 6 feet. Which is good, they're pretty good at the 6 foot. They can make the 6-foot shot, which is awesome. Problem is, come game time, what happens? 9 feet. So if I never give my sweethearts a shot to shoot the 9-foot shot, I'm doing them a disservice. So how do you preserve people's dignity? How do you help them thrive and feel valued when we're in that type of struggle for kids? Right, I had a conversation with one of my friends today from Phoenix where you don't get it, they're reading it 4th grade level. right? So how do we help scaffold, but not spend every day scaffolding? Because you can't like shoot at the 6-foot basket for 6 months and then take the test and bomb out and be like, yeah, well, I don't know what happened. Because we never shot at 9 feet. So those are the tough things we're having to work out together. So we're committed. Here's what's different. Used to be we couldn't even get on the schedule. We're committed to meet every week until we have a bargaining session resolution. And I'm doing a new strategic plan. Our goals, you know those goals we have, goal 1, goal 2, and all that, that sunsets this year. So I'm working on a new one with the board. All right, that's cool. Yeah, I'm glad I'm thankful that resonates with you. And one of the goals that you need to know is I want to make our culture at Fresno Unified the very best that it can possibly be. And you're an active part in that, and you have an active seat in the table, and your voice is the equal to mine in that space. So we need to find ways to make that happen. And so that's the work that we're going to be doing. I know people want to talk, and I've talked a lot already, but anyway, it's a gracious thing that you allow me to be here with you. Thankful for receiving me in the way that you have. This is a tough gig. Clearly my imperfections are visible every day. But I think the best that Fresno Unified can have is at least a leader who's authentic about what's real and what matters. And I appreciate the hard work you put in on behalf of our kids every day. Many times you provide singly the safest place that they are in their life. That's been a lot of discussion recently. Many times your class is the one place that they are most safe. If I have one ask of you is, just know how deeply your relationships with them really matter. You know that kid who will never leave the room. I don't pay you for the easy ones. I pay you for the crazy one you wish was absent, who's never been absent a day in his or her life. Right? Anyway, if there's anything I can do personally or professionally to help you, I'll try to help. And that is my commitment to you. Thanks for your time today.
Next slide. All right. I'm sure you came with some questions. You maybe have some more after seeing either the results or listening to Superintendent Nelson. We're going to try to do this in the most equitable way possible. There's 2 mics. I'm just going to set a timer, 30 minutes. If we go shorter, that's great. If we go all the more to be concise. Okay? But if you come with a question, or if you are facing something and have a solution, it would be great to solve this. Remember, because we're not just talking about the challenges that we're facing, but we are also talking about the solutions. Okay? So, does anybody come up to one of these so that the mics are already set up?
I may be rude. Please don't be offended if I'm right.
Hi, I'm Patty from Viking, and I just had a quick question about.
Sorry, I'm not coming up on you. My hearing is not great.
It's all good. I appreciate the fact that you want to help us, so I'm asking for a favor. I'm concerned that the kindergarten bathrooms that are needing to be put. When we went to our own classrooms, we were told we would get kindergarten bathrooms for the safety, like so they don't have to walk to a public bathroom down the hall. We were told last spring that we would get them, and then they said they couldn't do it in summer, and there's been dates, and my principal says she still hasn't heard, and I was just wondering if communication, like I know you don't know, that's why I'm asking you, because I thought maybe, I was wondering like effective communication, like how could we ensure like there's follow through or communication between facilities?
Fair question. I can okay, so first things first. It would never be my intention to offend. It's just not who I am as a human being. I may ask questions that come across as a little weird to kind of gain some knowledge, and so let me just say kind of carte blanche up front. Like I would never mean to offend, but I do want to try and answer what I can. I'm probably not going to have the answers to all the stuff. Normally what happens in a situation like that is like if something comes to me, those emails are filtered, and like that one I would put to the head of facilities and operations. The question becomes then like, how do I track that? How do I know where that's at? Or, we're working on that. Have you ever seen the Fresco app? Anybody have that? There's something that the city has where you like take a picture of something and you like tell them, hey, this is an issue. I'm trying to figure like how we can do something similar for like your J orders. I don't want to sell you on it yet. It's still kind of vaporware, but that's the source of discussion because I think there's a frustration, and principals feel it too. Like, I know I sent this in, and I don't know where it's at or where it's going. So that's one of the things we've been talking about even as late as the last week. How can we track that? In the short run, I'll take these, if there are one-off things, like I'll take them back and try to move them too. And if like by next week, Friday or something, you haven't heard, then circle back and say, hey, remember I spoke to you at the board meeting and this never got fixed. So this is Viking Kinder restrooms.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Yeah, happy to help.
Thank you. Again, just 30 minutes. I want to make sure that we're just clear, concise, we're ready to go. Right over here.
William Acuna, Sequoia Middle School, and just a comment, not a question, but I was on the executive board and the bargaining team in the 80s, and I worked with some really great people. Bob St. Germain, one of the greatest executive directors of FTA, Larry Mendez, former president, Jay Van Meter, Enoch Pinky Bennett, and we got to work with people like John Strempel, former superintendent, Jake Abbott. And one of the things that was overriding in this is that we had collaborative bargaining in our school district, in our union. And we did so much more for the district when we had collaborative bargaining, and I think that is still the way to go. It's a win-win situation for the district, for the association. And one of the things that I always tell my students, you can always catch more bees with honey than you can with vinegar. And so I'd like to leave you with that we go from the direction of collaborative bargaining rather than adversarial.
Thank you. I agree.
I am Linda from Slater, and I'm representing the early learning grades, TK and Kinder. TK does not have a class size cap, and at one point this year I was up to 29 students, 4-year-olds. The problem's been resolved, but this has been going on for the last 6 years I've taught TK. And there's no magic number where at one point you can get an extra class. Another issue with TK is our paras, our aides. We all have a 3-hour para, which means for 2.5 hours every afternoon, we are alone with 4-year-olds. Again, I was alone with 29 4-year-olds. These are the youngest kids in our district. Their social emotional needs are paramount to us, and those needs cannot be met with a large number of students. And also the fact that we don't have aides for the whole day is a safety issue. Kids get injured or they have accidents.
Can I ask how many hours kids are with you? 5?
5.5. I'm a designated school, and my aide goes home at 11, so I'm 2.5 hours alone. We have to call for someone to come down and get them. Sometimes that could take 10, 15 minutes. Many TK classrooms don't even have an attached bathroom. Instruction has to stop while they march their 25 kids down to the bathroom. And I know Kinder is dealing with the same thing. Their class sizes are nearing 30. They're having to share a 6-hour aide. We cannot meet the academic and social emotional needs of our youngest students when we don't have the support and smaller class size. And I do have a possible solution. As far as the paras, I know the 6-hour paras get benefits. They're more expensive. Perhaps maybe we could get 2 3-hour dates. One for the morning, one for the afternoon. You know, I'm alone with these kids, and you know, it's our society, it's a liability, and I'm very concerned.
Obviously, class size is going to be a significant component of what it is we discuss. I think that's probably the next major area to tackle. Honestly, I just need to be totally straight. Many of you know I worked in HR for 4 years. I was the classified guy. Do you know that? You can't have 2 3-hour periods. That's a 6-hour job. And by their union contract, you can't have 2 separate 3-hour people in the same classroom. They have rights to have a benefited job. But I don't, honestly, the advantage of that, to be very frank, is with 3-hour people, they come and go. It's like a revolving door. You can't keep those classes staffed. Yeah. Right. 6 hours. Yeah, you gotta have 6 hours because then people want to come and stay.
Right over there.
My name is Sam Flores. I'm a special education teacher at Fresno High. We have a couple of concerns. So they closed the OI program at Sunnyside this year, and they sent the kids the OI, the Orthopedic Impairment Specialty Program for high school students, and they sent them to their home schools. As much as I love my kiddos, we do not have the staffing necessary to wheel my wheelchair students around this campus, which does have grades everywhere. So we need to come up with a solution. Right now they have substitutes in as aides. I don't know about your campuses, but we don't get subs that often. So
just to clarify, all of the OI kids went back to their own
home
high
schools.
Mm-hmm. And are they in smaller numbers now? But they're like,
well, we have
services
2.
I'm not trying to offend or be ignorant. Did they have services come with them?
No, they didn't. That's the problem. The other question is more of a social worker. I know we have these social workers now that are great and all, but they're super expensive. And we need more SAP counselors. I know we're done with SAP as it is, but we got needs and they're not being met. We have kids who have referrals put in October who are constantly being referred to the principal and vice principal. And it's January and they said next week she starts getting services, and that was October. So I'm wondering about social emotional as well as staffing for our OI kids.
Yeah, I know that was tough when we moved. We made people affected by that when we made the change from SAP counselors to social workers. One of the things we're working with, this sounds bad. How do I tell you what we're working on without sounding like I'm making excuses? I don't know how to do it. I just tell you what we're working on, and we're working on it. But I mean, there's more to it. I think there's more to it that needs to be done. But you may have heard, one of the things we're doing is we're working with the Fresno County Office of Education to make sure that there's a full-time person doing social and emotional supports in every school, every day, all the time. Not even paid by us, which is even, that's really good. The only issue I'm having with that right now is in some of your schools, there's not a confidential place or space in which they can work. You need to know the reality. One of the hard things with class size that you probably hear me say, class size is obviously an issue. We're going to go to the table and discuss it. It's not as easy. I just need to clarify. It's not as easy as you might think. Did you know? Once we try to help, and I'm sorry if there's music teachers in here who are still doing the stage, and God bless you. I hope you're not. But we try to give music teachers as we could access to their room, or do intervention in the room. But what's happened with rooms? Or now we have TK, like we didn't really anticipate having so much expansion of learning, and now we don't have the rooms. So we can do class size. I'm hearing that people are less interested, and many board members, in fact, talk about like doubling people up. I'm not sure I've heard a lot of interest for that. I don't know. We can talk about that. Maybe people feel differently about it. But if we want to do class size, I'm about to put portables on more campuses, and some of your campuses are slammed. So just know that that's a bit of a teeter-totter, right? In order to do that, you got to put, I don't know how you are. Like, I love the portable because I can control my own AC. I don't know if you're like that. But, see, I'm a teacher, man. What are you doing? Anyway, but that's the conundrum that we have right now. I'm out of portables, so we have to buy more. And we are buying some.
My name is Virginia Rivera. I'm from Viking Elementary, and I've been teaching for 30 years. And ever since I've been a teacher, I've noticed that one of the biggest problems teachers and educators face is the testing culture of the district. Testing culture. And I know that you do not have control of the state tests. However, our district uses the interim tests. And for some reason, they choose to give the post-test 2 weeks after we return from winter break. So we have a pre-test interim in September, and then we have a post-test. And our whole entire teacher value is based on the post-test of the interim. I would like to teach to the whole child. That's why if my children were in my class, I would feel bad for them 2 weeks before the interim test because we have so much pressure from admin. Admin is getting pressure from someone, I don't know who, to raise those scores.
It's the nameless they. They downtown.
No.
It's me. You can just say Bob.
I would have to say that 80% of our meetings are poring over data. Data. I am literally stressing out 7 and 8-year-olds because of data. And I know that's not what you want to happen. I know it's not. But somebody needs to listen to teachers, at least if you're going to force us to give a test that narrows our standards down so minimally that we really can't teach the whole curriculum because we're judged on our scores. So it really sets up not a good situation for getting the best education to those children because we feel like we have to increase our scores. And it's just not the best way to set it up at all.
Can I ask, is that one of the determining factors of the idea of feeling like my time is not valued?
Yes.
All right, we'll work on it. A couple of different things. We will work on it. And one thing too, Leslie Sanders has come into the Office of Equity and Access, and we're doing like a comprehensive review of every test that we administer. So to try to figure out.
Just one more little point I'd like to make that for first and second graders, they're not required to take a state test. But the interim is imposed upon us by the district. We're not required to do
Right,
SBAC.
no, I know. That's what
So you could, in your power, see the evil test and eliminate it.
Bless you. I definitely could. That's not going to happen tonight, but I probably could do that. But thank you.
Okay, we have about 15 more minutes again.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to look at you weird, but my gosh, those lights are exactly the right spot.
And then reminder afterwards, we have not only prizes that we're going to be giving away, but also remember our dinner as well. So guys.
Honestly, if it doesn't have time sufficient for everybody, I'll stay and take whatever comments. The hard part is people can't hear them, but I'll certainly stay there.
Hi, I'm Angelique. I'm from Eaton, recently from Adams. I have a lot. I'm an RSP teacher, so my knowledge has been, I have a blessing and a curse type position because I get to see everything. So I feel for the GE kid, the teachers, the speech. So I have a lot of questions because I have concerns about everything because I'm about fixing the whole child. So within that, the first thing I have to say, which I don't know if there's any ALPS people here, but we really got slammed with ALPS this year. So we created all these new programs that we knew almost a year in advance, and they came very unprepared. We had no staffing. I didn't see kids for a month because I was in there helping these kids, so now they have a special place in my heart. I love what these people do. We didn't get the aides. The teachers weren't trained as properly as they probably should have been. These teachers are getting hit, bit, kicked, and I'm like, we should not be hurt. I have somebody on workman's comp right now. We're getting hurt every day. And I'm like, something has to happen for them, so I want to speak up for them. The next thing is like, what is it, speech, therapist, what's the other position? Nurses. I'm hearing that they are getting paid less here than other districts or other jobs, so we're not having enough nurses. I'm out of compliance on my IEPs because my nurse reports aren't getting done because she's out on stress leave. So that's not happening, and people are quitting our job because they could get more pay, same with the speeches. So we need to advocate for that. Then, it's like, I have a whole bunch more. Me, as personally, we have the SPED combo classes. If we can't do it for GE, we really can't do it for these kiddos who can't even do grade level stuff. Our paras need training, and and they should be about 6 hours because I'm getting left and right. I don't have a para, I have my sub-para here, but we're rotating and it's taken me 8 months to fill a position. And that's just not, so my kids are suffering on that end of it. And then my last thing that I'll leave, I have more, but I'll leave it at this, is the scope and sequence. I'm not a fan of. When I first started Fresno Unified, it was the year that you guys entered Common Core for 3rd grade. And so I got to go all these cool trainings, and they're like, you guys are teaching a mastery. You're not worried about scope and sequence. It's all about the kids. We need them to master it. And I'm like, heck yeah, because now my kids get to do what they need to do. And I get here and I'm talking to these teachers and I'm like, no, I have to move on. One day for this, one day for this. So I'm pushing into 5th and 6th grade classes where they can't even regroup. And they have no skills. So the other portion of that is I went from a teacher who had 28 kids on my caseload to now I'm like, I have a great caseload, guys. I'm at like 16, 19 kids. And so this year for testing, I pulled 2 kids at a time for their attention, and we read, and I made sure that they thought about the question. They jumped on the interim 10 to 20%. So we need those smaller caseload sizes to get the results that those kids need. I'll leave it there.
I could respond to some of that. I mean, I think obviously we need to, special ed is a major area that we need to kind of look at. And we are. That's why, I mean, you guys, I don't know if you know, but we authorized to have somebody come in and do a comprehensive review. Some of you may have participated, I don't know. So starting the 13th, we're going to begin this process. My SPED folks in the room. Starting the 13th, I don't know if you watch the board meetings or don't. God save you if you do. But, starting the 13th, we're going to begin this comprehensive process to implement some of the reforms that we've discussed on the SPED program. So I'd love to hear your voice in that. I'd love to see it, get your feedback. So that starts 2 board meetings from now. We have one on the 30th, and then I think it's the one immediately following that. I think it's February 13th, if I'm not mistaken. We'll do kind of a comprehensive kickoff of SPED to figure out how we can make it better. So your voice is valuable in the process, so watch. I mean, to some degree, we need changes at the policy and at the daily performance level. So I'm glad in 16, thank you for your help with the other kids testing. I get the triple combination thing, and that's been an issue. That's hard, you know, for kids too. If the relationship is not really strong, to endure it for 3 years is hard on a child. If it's good, man, that kid is so good. And for those of you that are here who are stellar teachers, it's good for your kids, but it's hard on everybody to have 3 grades, for sure. We'll talk about it, okay? Hi, my friend. This is my former parent.
I'm going to let Nelson introduce me.
Oh, sorry, wait. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, Katie.
I don't know if you can hear me. My name is Peggy, and I teach at Awani Middle School. And unfortunately, last Thursday, you know, just right back to school, there was a fight in my classroom. 2 female students. The aggressor was right up next to the other student's desk. I got right in the middle. And I tried to prevent it, asked her to sit down. She would not. She ended up going around me, hitting the girl, grabbing her hair with one hand, hitting her with the other. I turned around to try to protect the student that was still sitting in her desk. I was right there in the middle, so my back was now to the aggressor. She pulled us down onto the floor, so then all 3 of us are on the floor, desk included. Could no longer hit her, so began kicking her and me in the process. And I look up at her and I'm telling students, go get help, and telling her to let go, she wouldn't let go. Finally, adults came and helped out, but I looked up at her, wide-eyed and smile on her face, very proud of what she had accomplished. The admin team, my fellow teachers have been very supportive. However, she's coming back. She's been suspended for 5 days. She's coming back. Luckily, she's not in my room, but I don't want her in other classrooms. I don't want another elective teacher to have her. I don't want to send her anywhere else. In the other middle school, I don't know many of you, but I don't want her to be in those classrooms either. So now she's coming back, and I'm thinking, what's going to happen? I can't. She's like a loose cannon. I can't help her. I can't control her. I help, protect my kids, my other kids, and so that's my concern. Discipline, safety, just coming back, and that's a scary thing for me, for my colleagues, and my school.
I'll just start on a personal note. Bless you, I'm sorry that happened. It's not right. That's the really ugly and difficult part of our job. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to kind of have I don't know how to make this not awkward. But anyway, I do appreciate the fact that you were willing to wade into that conflict. I don't know the specifics of the issue. It sounds pretty aggressive and egregious. The issue, I wonder was she subject to expulsion panel? No?
I think this is might be her second offense, however, still very aggressive, and 66 Atlas entries later.
Okay. So, two issues I think we probably have. One, I'm sure I get to speak to those who had me as a principal at Thomas, right? I think it's really hard when you are disciplining kids in the class. There's two things. One, like what happens long term? Like what do we do in a situation like this where we believe we have somebody who's a danger to themselves or others? I don't know. I'm not super into building more expulsion schools. I'll be honest, I'm not sure that's where my first pivot would be, but I'm not how you sequester them in a way that they're safe. I know it's really frustrating when you're teaching, you send somebody to the office and you feel like they just got pat on the head and got sent back with a pencil or something like that. That's really egregious. So two fronts, right? Like what do we do? And there's been a lot of hustle around like restorative practices. The honest part is, here's what you need to know what I believe around discipline. Because it's come out in this most recent circumstance with all the stuff on social media too. Like, are you gonna let kids cuss people? Like, I don't ascribe to binary thinking, period. I don't generally subscribe to that. And so I think, one, I don't want kids cussing adults routinely, although I also know that happens, and I don't think that every kid, if I grabbed every kid that cussed me, that would be a problem too, right? But I think discipline is twofold. You have to account for the behavior that you exhibited, and in this case it sounds like, is there really an accounting? It's hard when the kid gets up and smiles and then they're coming back. That's the front. So there has to be some accounting component, and I do think there has to be some restoration component where she has to get her head right with respect to the egregious nature of what it is she did. And that's why I do believe in the concept of restorative practices. That's what I'd like to try and make us do. Either one without the other seems to fail, because honestly, like if I just, like I'm probably not gonna be able to just punish you into success. Like I'm just gonna keep beating you until you're happy and do the right thing. It just doesn't, it's not sustainable. Nor is it okay to like try to restore the relationship when there's been no accounting of the harm, right? So, you want to email me maybe some specifics, I'll try to follow up and find out what's the story with this specific circumstance. You need to hear it from me too. I don't think our kids are throwaway kids, even the most, not you didn't say that at all, but my general orientation you need to know as a human being is I'm going to orient to all 74,000 of my kids as though they're my child, which is why I'm not going to be into them getting rough handled, and I'm not going to be into them like, acting a fool, getting a teacher on the ground and then smiling and come back to school 5 days later. Like I'm not supportive of that either. Give me the information and we'll see if there's any other option. I don't know if there are, but yeah. Thank you. Sincerely, and you know what, Peggy's story is it's probably been replicated in your classroom at one time or another. I think at all times, one of us probably goes through the rock tumbler at one time or another where we're just like, my God, what happened right there? So I'm sorry, sincerely sorry that happened. If that's you and you've had that experience too, thank you for your resilience in coming back. It's hard to have those experiences too many times and feel loving, but I'm committed to making sure that our schools are safe. And that's part of having a world-class culture, is you have to believe that when you come to work, you're not going to get beat up. The most freaking to the point about you had before, the workers' comp, the most severe workers' comp situations we have in the district are special ed paraprofessionals. It's just the area where we just need to work on it. Right? If we do well to call it out and fix it, but anyway, bless you, thank you for bringing that up, and we'll work on it. Yeah, I wish I had a better answer for that, but it's hard. Those are complex things. It's borne out in the circumstances this week. Do you allow a kid to cuss you? It's not appropriate. It's not right. You shouldn't do that to an elder. And our kids should do better. should you grab a kid if you think they crossed you? I'm not sure that's the right answer.
So I'm going to jump in really quickly and try to do a win-win-win for everybody here. So, Superintendent
Everybody but
Alves.
my wife.
Yes, yeah. Does have a long drive home, and I know Superintendent Nelson said that he would stay and answer questions, and we want to make sure that we do have that time. I know that you guys were able to stay in line. We also know that there are some people that are hungry that didn't get to eat. We also know that we have some raffle prizes that we need to raffle.
I only came for the TV and the spots.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I'm really here, honestly.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk really quickly about next steps. We'll do the raffle, allow those that want to leave to go ahead and leave and get dinner. Those of you who are in line to be able to continue to ask your questions. Is that okay? Okay, awesome. So let me see if this...
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'll try. Yeah.
Go to the next
Give
one.
me your best shot. Give it a shot.
All right, so our next steps, I'll do this really briefly, is for you to stay engaged. This process was awakened and our voices were awakened by staying engaged. You need to continue to do so. And so when we have events like this, when we ask for your input, it is really valuable, right? Because again, I think that we have somebody that is going to be able to start that listening process and really putting it into action again, not just talking about it, but being about it. One way that you could do that is, like we said, we're meeting every Tuesday this semester in order to stay in space to bargain. Next slide. Bargaining and bruise. So,
What the heck are you doing? Remember we said no surprises before we came into this meeting? Oh God, bud, you're cool, man. You're hip. Granted, I haven't drank since '93, but that's gonna be a lot of fun every Tuesday. All right.
plus arcades for the kids, so we're good to go. No. So after every bargaining session, the educator group is invited out to Mina's Victory Grill on Cedar Avenue. We'll take care of the appetizers, you take care of your drinks or anything else. It'll just be a good time not only to share out some of the information that has taken place, but then to gather some ideas based off of whatever was shared out. Good idea?
I'll say this, you are the hippest labor group ever in the history. Seriously, that's pretty rock star quality.
Make sure to come out. This will be starting on February 5th at Mina's Victory Grill.